3 hours after saying, "I do," Naomi Carter expected a night of love, a night she had prayed for her entire life, a night her church celebrated as God's perfect plan. But instead, she opened the honeymoon suite door and froze. Her new husband, Pastor Elijah Ward, the man trusted by thousands, admired by elders, and praised as God's anointed, stood in the center of the room wearing nothing but adult diapers, and when he turned around, Naomi saw something so shocking, so medically disturbing, that her body went numb. His anal area was destroyed, not injured, not bruised. Destroyed in a way that told a story years longer than he would ever admit. Her mind shattered for a split second. Her heart stopped. Her voice died in her throat. And yet, the most horrifying part was not what she saw. It was what he was about to confess. A confession that would expose a secret double life, a corrupt church, a murder plot, and a conspiracy designed to silence Naomi forever. Stay with me, because what happened next is nearly impossible to believe. Welcome to True Crime Story. Thank you for being here, for supporting these investigations, and for caring about the truth. Hit like, subscribe, and stay until the end, because this case gets darker every single minute. Before he became a monster in Naomi's story, Pastor Elijah Ward was considered a miracle. He wasn't just another preacher. He was the rising star of New Light Fellowship, a Houston megachurch with more than 4,000 members. Every Sunday, crowds gathered early just to hear him preach about purity, holiness, and resisting temptation. People didn't just admire him, they idolized him. They believed he lived above sin, above desire, above weakness. But Elijah didn't start at the top. At 23, fresh out of Bible college, he became a youth pastor at a small, struggling church. He connected with broken teenagers in ways no adult ever had. He stayed after service for hours, praying with them, encouraging them, listening to stories no one else cared about. The church tripled in youth attendance. Parents praised him. Leaders celebrated him. Whispers began. The young pastor is anointed, and one man noticed more than anyone. Bishop Robert Hawley, senior pastor at New Light, a man whose influence stretched far deeper than the sermons he preached. He recruited Elijah, trained him, shaped him, and he gave him one rule, a rule Elijah followed more than the Bible itself. In ministry, perception is everything. Elijah polished his image until it glowed. Tailored suits, perfect speech, calculated kindness, strategic friendships. By 30, he was the church's golden boy. But behind his flawless smile, something dark was fermenting. Something the church refused to see. Something that was about to explode. Elijah was 31, handsome, successful, holy, and single. For a megachurch, that was a time bomb. Older women whispered, "He should be married by now." Teens giggled, "He's the perfect man." But others noticed a problem. He didn't flirt, didn't date, didn't even acknowledge the women who adored him. Instead, he spent countless late nights with a security volunteer named Marcus Clay, private meetings, locked rooms, unscheduled prayer sessions that lasted long after everyone else left. Suspicion grew. One deacon said quietly, "Doesn't it bother anyone that Pastor Elijah doesn't show interest in any woman?" Another deacon snapped, "You'll answer to God if you ever question that man's purity." But whispers don't die. They spread, they multiply, and Elijah felt them closing in. In the hallways, in the pews, in the elders' expectations. He needed a solution. Quick, clean, convincing. He needed a wife. Naomi had attended New Light for years. Quiet, faithful, raised to obey spiritual authority. Elijah had seen her before, but he noticed her only when she became useful. Her parents were devoted to Bishop Hawley. Her father respected Elijah deeply. Her mother believed every word that came from a pulpit. Naomi was the perfect blueprint for a pastor's wife. One Sunday, Elijah approached her, I've prayed about this for months. God showed me you are my wife. Naomi froze. They had barely spoken before. But when she told her parents, her mother cried tears of joy. Her father said it was the Lord's blessing. Naomi felt a tightening in her chest, a whisper of fear she couldn't explain. But she ignored it. Elijah insisted on a 2-month engagement. Obedience is greater than delay, he said. Long engagements open the door to temptation. Naomi's instinct said no. Her church said yes. The church won. During the engagement, Naomi tried to truly know Elijah. But he was always busy, meetings, counseling, late-night church duties. He never gave her anything deep. No hopes, no fears, no real past. Whenever she pressed, he redirected instantly. We'll talk after the wedding. On her wedding day, she looked beautiful and terrified. Her mother brushed it off. You're marrying a man of God. This is the enemy trying to plant fear. Naomi nodded and walked the aisle anyway. The ceremony was breathtaking. Applause, vows, a pastor loved by thousands marrying a woman adored by her family. But 3 hours later, that fairy tale collapsed. Elijah slipped out of the reception, claiming he needed a moment. Naomi followed, knocked, opened the door, and her world cracked open. Elijah stood there in a diaper, and when he turned around, Naomi's soul felt like it left her body. Severe, unnatural trauma. A wound that didn't look accidental. A truth he could no longer hide. Elijah. What is this? She whispered. His mask fell, and the lies began to unravel. Elijah's first excuse was a lie. He claimed he'd been assaulted at 18 and left permanently damaged. But Naomi wasn't blind. The injuries were recent, repetitive, deliberate. Elijah, this didn't happen once, she said. Tell me the truth. And he broke. I couldn't stop, he whispered. I kept going back to men. I tried to quit. I prayed. I fasted, but I couldn't. Naomi's heart didn't break. It hardened. You didn't marry me because of God, she said. You married me because you needed a disguise. Elijah didn't deny it. Naomi left. Left the suite. Left the hotel. Left the marriage. For 2 days, she drove without direction, trying to breathe again. And then she made a calm, powerful choice. She filed for divorce and promised to keep Elijah's secret. But Elijah didn't feel relieved. He felt doomed. A divorce that fast would ignite rumors worse than before. Questions he couldn't answer. Doubts he couldn't silence. And in his desperation, a horrifying idea took root. Elijah called Naomi over and over. She ignored every call. He panicked. He imagined the whispers starting again. He imagined losing everything. So he called the one man who knew his darkest secrets, Bishop Robert Hawley. Elijah confessed his fear, the divorce, the danger, the reputation collapse. Hawley didn't panic. He didn't pray. He only said, I'll handle it. And those 3 words sent Naomi toward death. 3 days later, Elijah called Naomi with a soft, practiced voice. Please, can we meet? Just to talk. Naomi agreed because she wanted closure. She got in her car and headed toward the restaurant. 2 blocks away, a black SUV appeared in her mirror. Too fast, too close, too aggressive. Before she could react, the SUV slammed into her car with full force. Her world spun. Glass exploded. Metal screamed. And everything went dark. The SUV sped away. This wasn't an accident. This was an execution attempt disguised as a crash. And Naomi's fight for justice was only beginning. Naomi survived. Barely. Broken bones. Shattered spine. Doctors said she'd never walk again. But when she opened her eyes, she whispered, Elijah. Responsible. Detective Laura Briggs stepped in, calm, relentless, unafraid of church power. She traced the SUV to Marcus Clay, Elijah's late-night companion. Under pressure, Marcus confessed. It wasn't Elijah. It was Bishop Holla. He paid me. Told me when. Told me where. Told me to make it look like an accident. Phone records. Bank transfers. Church funds misused. A conspiracy deeper than anyone imagined. Arrests followed. Elijah, Marcus, Bishop Holly. But the trial, the media firestorm, the collapse of New Light Fellowship, that was only the beginning. Because Naomi, a bride who walked away from a wedding, became the woman who forced an entire corrupt empire into the light. If you're still watching, comment, "I'm still here." It helps us know who stays until the end. Do churches protect victims? Or do they protect reputations? Let's talk about it. Like, share, and subscribe for more real investigations that expose hidden truths. Thank you for watching.